Welcome back to another episode review and breakdown for Titans Season 3. Today we're talking about Titans Season 3 Episode 6, titled Lady Vic. And this was definitely a bit of a slower episode. We had multiple storylines going on, but definitely a slow burn here. But at the same time, we do also have things going at actually a pretty decent pace. So we're going to go and break it all down and more. So quick spoiler warning if you've not yet seen Titans Season 3 Episode 6. And let me know in the comments below, guys, what did you think about this episode? So we start off the episode with Lady Vic, of course, being the title character in this episode. And this whole character, throughout the whole episode, definitely reminded me of Alice from Batwoman. That's literally what she was in this episode. Like, just this blonde, sadistic psychopath. And she was very similar to Alice, which I thought was pretty interesting. And for those who don't know, in the comics, Lady Vic is actually a classic Nightwing villain. So I did a video on that a couple months ago when we first found out that the character was going to be featured in this season. And now we finally get to see her debut in this episode. And when she starts off in the episode, the first thing she does is kill some state troopers and heads to Gotham. And at this point, we know, obviously, she's a murderer, but why did she kill these state troopers? Well, as we find out later in the episode, because the flashback, she lost her partner, so it's kind of like a thing of, well, if I can't have love, then nobody can. So she just ruined that for both of them. But then we go on over to a flashback, which was something I wasn't really expecting in this episode, because, well, last week's episode was all a flashback, but I still really enjoyed seeing it here because we go 6 years ago in Gotham where we see Dick suited up as Robin again, which was awesome to see. Didn't think we'd ever see him as Robin, but he's Robin again because, again, it is a flashback. And he is battling a masked woman who is trying to commit some sort of robbery, and, it seems very Catwoman-y, but it is not Catwoman because it's actually revealed that it's Barbara Gordon, and she's not a criminal. She's literally just doing this to keep her father on toes and just messing around with him just for fun, basically. But after this conversation, they go to the bar, have some great interactions here. I really enjoyed seeing the relationship and really all the flashbacks between these two characters with Dick and Barbara. We even get this cool scene where, again, they're at the bar and Barbara's like, I want to do something in my life. I want to do good for the world. And Dick is like, oh, you could come work with me and Bruce and, like, be Robin Girl or something like that. And she's like, oh, what about Batgirl? Yeah, Batgirl. Good name, good idea. Might actually use that in the future. Because, of course, this takes place before she becomes Batgirl. But anyway, after this, they go back to one of their apartments. I don't know whose it is, but things get a little spicy here. They start making out until all of a sudden they realize Dick is bleeding. And then that's when Dick actually wakes up. Oh, it's present day. It was just a dream. So, sure, back then, 6 years ago, he had a great relationship with Barbara. They were romantically involved, but nowadays, they kind of hate each other, and we actually even get another conversation in this episode to reaffirm that, where it's actually pretty cool, because Dick mentioned, like, hey, we could really use the help of Oracle to find Jason and Scarecrow and all this stuff, so that was a nice name drop, because, of course, in the comics, after Barbara is shot and paralyzed by the Joker, that is when she retires from the role of Batgirl, because, well, she can't walk, and she becomes Oracle, and she's kind of like the, as Ned would say from Spider-Man Homecoming, the guy in the chair. So that was a nice name drop that I enjoyed seeing here. Wasn't really brought up much else in the episode, but again, still cool to see. And then meanwhile, we follow up after what we saw 2 episodes ago now, where, of course, Corey and Gar, they rescued Blackfire from that underground government laboratory. So now they've brought Blackfire to Gotham City and to Wayne Manor, where, of course, Corey absolutely hates her because she grew up with her as her sister and everything, so she knows what she's like, but to everybody else, it's like, oh, yeah, I mean, like, sure, she's killed some people, but she really doesn't seem like that bad of a person. I mean, you literally have Connor in this episode, I think, flirting with her, too, so maybe we'll see a bit of romantic spark between them as well. But here in this episode, we have Connor and Corey going to do some more investigations, doing all that good stuff. I love how we had Superboy really on display here, especially with his Lex Luthor side of things, because we have a doctor that they're talking to, actually with the same exact bomb that was put in Hank that unfortunately Superboy was not able to disarm, but this time he was able to do it, and again, tapping into that more Lex Luthor side of things, because he is made up of half Kryptonian parts, aka half Superman, and half human with half Lex Luthor. So we have him doing that, and then we also have a cool scene later on where he actually used like his evil genius smarts to think about what Jonathan Crane could be doing with this new device that he's obtained, which is like going to basically multiply chemicals and solutions and all that kind of stuff, but we'll talk about that later. So when they get back to the car, Blackfire's gone, so she escaped, and they think she just bailed on him. But when they get back to Wayne Manor, it turns out she's sitting right there waiting for him, and she actually went off to do a little investigating of her own, the hard way, basically, bashing in some heads, beating people up, and she got some information. And I mean, yeah, sure, probably not the greatest way of going about things, but she got more info than Corey and Connor did, so guess it worked. And so, I mean, good for them. But meanwhile, let's go back to talking about Lady Vic, because again, she is the title character of this episode, but why is she going to Gotham City? Well, turns out Scarecrow has actually hired her, and he makes this very clear to Jason in this episode that, I've got Lady Vic now, and I've got a whole bunch of other assassins that I can hire, and you are very, very replaceable. And that's where you start to see things fall apart in the relationship, because Jason realizes that he's literally just another one of the Scarecrow's henchmen, and he doesn't want to be that. He doesn't want to be the second in command. He wants to be the big guy. He wants to be the boss, and that's not what he's getting out of this Scarecrow relationship. So he does something pretty big at the end of this episode and goes off on his own. But Lady Vic, for herself, she actually goes after Barbara. And Dick actually is able to figure out that Lady Vic is back in town and that she's going after Barbara and all this stuff, because it was actually really cool how he analyzed the audio from this attack of Lady Vic and was able to figure out that, yeah, that's Lady Vic because of a previous encounter with the character, where again we get another flashback to Dick and Barbara robbing someplace, and they have an encounter with Lady Vic, and by the end of it, her partner ends up dead, again, as I mentioned earlier in the video. So she already has a grudge about Dick and Barbara, so she already has a reason to go after them, but now apparently the Scarecrow has sent her after Barbara for a specific reason, and we have Barbara responding to a message from Bruce, and he's like, oh, go to the place where it all started, and turns out, no, it's not Bruce, it was all a setup, and it was a trap from Lady Vic. So we get this really cool fight scene between Lady Vic and Barbara, and wow, Barbara is really, like, you think that, like, oh, she's in a wheelchair, she can't fight, but, like, she whipped out them batons and everything. Wow, like, that's impressive. That's, like, really impressive. Like, she was still able to hold her own against Lady Vic, and that was, again, a really badass moment that I loved in this episode. So, Lady Vic is defeated, and she kind of retreats, and at the end of this episode, she goes back and meets up with Dr. Crane once again, and she shows him, like, oh, I got this snapshot of her, and she has this picture of Barbara, and I'm not completely sure if this was, like, meant to be a big thing, or if it was, like, just a throwaway thing, because I'm not completely sure why she went after Barbara. Like, does Scarecrow need a picture of Barbara for something? I'm a little confused here. If you can clear things up for me, then of course let me know in the comments below. But then we are to end off the episode with a huge cliffhanger, a huge moment, because we have Jason again, who is now starting to kind of rebel against Scarecrow, and he just releases the anti-fear toxin to just a bunch of random criminals, basically trying to build up his own empire and his own reputation within Gotham City. And these criminals, as soon as they get this anti-fear toxin, they go into Tim Drake's family restaurant and just shoot up the place. And this is a character that I've been wondering about, like, how are they going to factor him back in here? Because we saw him in the first episode, and now we're 6 episodes in, and it's like, all right, where's Tim Drake? Well, he's back for only one scene in the episode, but still, we're continuing his story. And again, like, wow, this was a brutal scene. You see the whole place shot up. You see his father get shot. We don't see his mother, so I'm not completely sure what happened to her. But in the comics, the way it worked was Tim's mother died, and his father got paralyzed. So in this episode, episode, it does seem like his father did get shot, but maybe he's still alive, so maybe he's paralyzed, and that's how it's going to go, just to keep things comics accurate. But then outside you have Jason, who did not go inside yet, but you can see that he has, like, a bit of remorse on his face. Like, he does feel bad, and I do have a feeling that by the end of the season he's going to be redeemed, whether that's going to be he rejoins the Titans or gets his own spin-off show or something like that and becomes an anti-hero. I don't completely know for sure, but he's definitely getting redeemed here. But then the last shot is he takes the dose of the anti-fear toxin, puts up his hood, and goes to do something. We don't know where he's going. Is he going in the restaurant? Is he going off to do something else? We don't know for sure, but that is where the episode ends. And yeah, guys, like I said, it was definitely a slower episode, probably the weakest of the episodes we've seen so far. That's not necessarily a bad thing, though. I still enjoyed it, still had some fun with it. But yeah, I'm interested to see where things go here, again, with Tim Drake and all that, where the whole Scarecrow Red Hood storyline's going. Blackfire's now here in the mix with the Titans, and of course, you know, Dick and his whole thing. So I'm really excited to see all that. Also, speaking of that, like, when is Rachel/Raven and Donna Troy coming back in here? Because we know they're coming back. We're like halfway through the season, so hopefully soon. But for now, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think about Titans Season 3, Episode 6? Let me know all your thoughts, theories, and predictions for the future season in the comments below. And thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep up to date on